Hey, there's a new update on the TX-6 and I'm here to tell you all about it. Now this update is a much smaller update than the last update we had back in July. And it consists mainly of a few bug fixes, but it has one major new feature, which is BPM detection. So this will just be a short little video showing you the overview of the new update for the TX-6. So let's just very quickly go through the bug fixes first. So it now has a better tap tempo control. So that means that when you're in tempo here, you can use the FX1 button to tap tempo. And it's now improved with this little confidence bar at the bottom here, which tells you more or less how certain the TX-6 is that it's gotten the right tempo. It also has a better direct current blocking filter on the inputs, which means that you'll get less electronic noise if you use a device that gives off some grounding noise. And then you have a lot of added MIDI CC controls for things like the track gain setting. For sequencer patterns, you have an increased range of 0 to 127 for the MIDI CC on all parameters. They also did one major fix, which was that very often if you had a USB disk inserted, the device would crash when you turned it on. And I would experience that a lot. So you would have to turn it off and back on again in order for it to work. So it wasn't a huge issue, but it was pretty annoying. And they've also added a feature so that the files won't be corrupted if you're recording in the USB disk and you turn off the device while it's recording. So those are good bug fixes. But the main new feature is that they have a new clock setting, which means that it now has beat tracking. So it can listen to an audio signal and match the BPM of the audio signal. So let me just quickly show you how you use beat tracking. So I have my trusty OPZ right here. We have the output connected from the OPZ to the track 1 of the TX-6. And now in order to activate the beat tracking, you'll have to go into the menu. You'll go into clock. And here you have different settings for what the TX-6 will use to determine the BPM. So if it's on internal, the TX-6 runs the master clock. If it's on USB, receives a MIDI clock signal from the connected device. Then you have a Bluetooth or BLE, where the MIDI clock is synced through Bluetooth if it's connected to compatible devices. And then on the next, you have TR1, which means track 1. Meaning that the TX-6 will listen to the signal coming into track 1 to determine what the BPM is. So you have TR1, track 2, track 3, track 4, track 5, track 6. So you can basically decide which track the TX-6 should listen to determine the BPM. So now let's put it on TR1 or track 1 because we're connected to track 1. So now the clock is on pause and we can, before we start the TX-6, let's determine the tempo. Let's just do 120. So you can see when we hold the metronome button here, you can see it lights up 120. This one is currently at 131. So now when we turn on the OPZ, this should find 120 as its BPM. So let's see. And now it found it almost instantaneously. And you see the bar here is almost completely full, which means that it is fairly confident that it found the right tempo. Okay, so let's see what happens when we increase the tempo to 140. So now you see the confidence bar is lower and it's trying to figure out what the correct tempo is. And now it's kind of settled on 140. And it varies a little bit, but it self-corrects in a very good way. Okay, let's do a slower tempo. Let's do 90. Now you can see it's getting confused. And there it's suddenly jumped to 90. So it's pretty accurate, I must say. You can also reset its guesses by pressing the FX2 button, and then it will start recalculating again. If you want to help it out, like say we go to a tempo that makes it hard for it to figure out what the tempo is, because it's very different from the previous one, you can use FX1 to help it out by tapping. So there, now it's at 50. Because that's a very good feature, because like you saw, when we have big tempo changes, it has some problems finding the correct tempo straight away. There, and it found it immediately when I give it a little bit of help. You can obviously use that to sync it with the internal sequencers of the TX-6. For example, here I have just a little drum sequence. So say you want to sync that with the audio you're sending into the TX-6, you can just start playing. And then it's important that you start the sequencers in time with the device, because if you start it out of time, it won't synchronize with your audio source. So if I try to start it out of sync, you can hear it's completely out of sync. So you just have to wait for a 1. There you go. Now, what are some areas you can use this? Well, there are plenty. You can use it to sync up the sequencers like I just showed you, or if you have a recording of something, if you're using a record player or streaming services, you can connect it to the TX-6 and let the audio track determine the master clock. So that means that if you have a track that you want to jam along with, you can use the input to determine the clock on the TX-6, and then you can connect your other devices either via USB through MIDI, or you can use the aux and Q inputs right here to send clock signals to things like pocket operators or external synths, like modular or semi-modular setups. And I also made a whole video showing how you can use the TX-6 as a master clock, where I synced it with the OPZ, the OP1, and 4 pocket operators. And I'm going to leave a card right here where you can check that out. So this new update basically gives you one more option for syncing devices with the TX-6, which is really useful, because I find one of the most useful ways of using the TX-6 is as a master device for syncing your other music equipment. So that was it, just a short little video this time. I hope you found it useful. And if you did, please hit that like button, because that helps my channel a lot and it's completely free. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And in the meantime, you can check out this video right here, where I'm showing you how you can use the TX-6 as a replacement music studio for your acoustic recordings.